Hey guys, welcome back to the channel McNallie Money, the new home of power mining analysis. Anthony Power and I are so excited this morning to bring you huge news from Bitfarms appointing the new CEO or Chief Executive Officer position to no other than Ben Gagnon. Now we've had Ben on the channel a number of times in the past. We've got a lot of questions from the viewers to go through in today's presentation. But before we do, you guys, you know the deal. Smash the like button, huge help to myself and the channel. If you're not already subscribed, McNallie Money, feel free to join and let us know in the comment section below what you think of this appointment as Ben, the new CEO of Bitfarms, if you're currently holding shares, and your outlook for the back half of 2024. Now with that being said, let's get into today's interview. Okay guys, so that's right. Today's video, Anthony Power and I are so excited to welcome Ben Gagnon from Bitfarms as the official CEO or Chief Executive Officer as appointed this morning, hot off the press. So Ben, congratulations first and foremost, and thanks so much for joining us here today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bryce and Anthony. Very glad to be here. Very excited to be on your show for the first time as CEO. Not my first time on the show, but first time, with the full company behind me. It's a very, very exciting opportunity here.
It most definitely is. And we've got a number of questions to go through in today's interview talking about this new era for Bitfarms. But first things first, how does it feel to be the CEO of Bitfarms? I know you've been there for about 5 years. You've worked your way up through the company, Ben. Obviously, a lot of growth and transition for not only Bitfarms, but the entire industry in that 5-year period. How does it feel to be at the helm or reins of the ship now?
Honestly, it feels amazing and somewhat surreal. This is something I've been building towards for several years now. It's been my personal goal to eventually work myself up to the CEO spot. And, to finally be here, it's all still very fresh. It's all hitting me right now. But what I am filled with is a sense of overwhelming optimism. We have tremendous opportunities ahead of us. We've got an incredible team here at Bitfarms. We now have the opportunity to move forward a lot more aggressively. I think be a lot more dynamic, be a lot more flexible in what we're doing and how we're growing. Part of what we're going to try and achieve here is not only everything that we've already outlined this year towards the 21 exahash, which still remains on track, but also to expand the company and to lay the foundation here for the next 4 years. We have a vision here at the company for not only what this company can do this year, but everything we can do over the next 4 years, all the way up through the 2028 halving. And it now is really, really all going to start coming together as we lay that foundation for multi-year growth.
Yeah, congratulations, Ben. I'll be full transparency. I think Bryce myself did a podcast recently, and the question came across about you being the CEO, and I said Ben's exceptional, the chief mining officer, but the CEO, it's looking at the experience and all that. But I suppose when you step back and look at it in more detail, you are Bitfarms. You've been there 5 years. I think you're probably the most from a retail investment point of view, you're probably the most well-known person in Bitfarms. And that's no respect to anybody else there, but you're the one that sort of showcases the company at most of the conferences. So, I can understand the decision for the company to go forward. Obviously, as a chief mining officer, there wasn't many equals in the industry in terms of how people felt towards your abilities in that particular niche position there. And there was only a couple of chief mining officers actually in the industry now. It was only yourself and I think Taylor at CleanSpark with that title. But no, congratulations on getting the road ahead. Obviously now it's your strategy, the company strategy. You're delivering that strategy on everyone's behalf. And for me, it's sort of like touching on the update that you gave in June with regards to hash rate. Now, appreciate you didn't quite get to the 12, and you've given the reasons for that. I think from a lot of questions that we've had in recently, in terms of it's more about when are these machines being energized, because there's quite a big difference between what you've literally installed and then what you've plugged in. Can you sort of like just give us a very quick update in relation to June as to when you expect sort of the 12 exahash to be energized in full?
Yes, so there's a few things going on there. One, we had some bad weather which impacted logistics, and so some miners that were expected to be delivered at the end of the month got pushed back. The other thing here was that there was also a lot of excess heat. Miners, even the best miners, don't perform very well in extreme heat environments, and they tend to pull back. Basically, what we're looking at here is that with the logistics clearing out and the weather starting to improve, like our hash rate is going to continuously track up there towards that 12. I don't have a specific date on exactly when we'll hit that number, because part of that is dealing with this weather question. But we should have the full Paso Pe site online relatively shortly here. It will be done this month. There's a lot of hash rate that's going to come from that full energization there. And then, probably still be a little bit under 12 as we work through a lot of the initialization, of the facilities. When we deploy all these miners, we deployed, I can't remember the exact figure, it's somewhere around 39,000 miners so far this year. The entire operations team has been, going full speed across every single site. And we've been plugging up miners as fast as we can, as fast as we receive them. What we're doing now is we're cycling back and we're troubleshooting a lot of these, farm upgrades and farm installs, which really we were focusing on getting them up and not getting them fully optimized. And so I think when we get the optimization of all of those sites done, that's when we're going to break through that 12 number. Just finishing the optimization of all these sites, which is what the staff is circling around on now. With all the Quebec sites, upgraded, now it's about optimizing every single site that we have.
And obviously that 12 was a mid-year target. To the end of year target, we're still assuming 21 exahash. And at the moment, you'd say with the just over 5.5 months remaining, you're likely to still get to that target.
Correct. We've got quite a bit of bandwidth here. We've got a lot of that growth is going to come out of our Paraguay site. The shipments for all of the miners and all of that equipment is a lot more robust in terms of its advanced scheduling than it was for the Paso Pe site. So we don't anticipate any sort of logistical issues there when it comes to shipping out the miners or any of the other high value and important equipment that we need to energize that site. So that's all still on track. We do have some small expansions. So there's going to be a small expansion and upgrade in our Washington site, which is going to take place around the September-October timeframe, which will also contribute some hash rate. We've got a expansion of an additional 11 megawatts at our Baie-Comeau site. So we've upgraded that site from the MicroBT miners that was previously running. It's now all running T21s, but that site's going to double in capacity in the September-October timeframe as well, contributing more hash rate. And we're going to be deploying a smaller amount of miners as well at that Sharon site in Q4, which will also contribute, I think, roughly 600 petahash according to the current schedule. So we've got a few areas and a few sites where they're going to be contributing, several hundred petahash each. And then a lot of the extra growth up to the 21 is going to come from the Iguazu site being energized in Q4. We also will have, two more farm upgrades, one in Paraguay at our original 10 megawatt Paraguay site. It's currently running all M30S. That's going to be upgraded to T21s. And we also have some upgrades that are happening down in Rio Cuarto at our Argentina site. So we're going to be pulling down our least efficient M30S, and we're going to be racking T21 there.
This effectively gives you more opportunity to grow hash rate in the same effective space, then, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, that gives us two things. One, it improves the energy efficiency and productivity of each site that we're upgrading, right? So pulling off a miner at 38 watts per terahash, plugging in a new miner at 21 watts per terahash has big impacts, not only to the amount of Bitcoin that we can produce at that site, but also our cost to produce Bitcoin at that site. And also helps to spread the amount of fixed overhead associated with operating this particular site over a greater amount of Bitcoins, which will help to reduce the cost further still.
And from a space perspective as well, I suppose.
Oh yeah, from a space perspective as well, it's quite helpful. The T21s are capable of extreme energy density. Those power supplies units are rated up until 6 kW, and the manufacturer Bitmain provides support for them to operate anywhere basically between 3.6 and 5.2 kW is kind of the authorized ranges. So within that level of consumption, we're not actually even overclocking the machine, right? Overclocking the machine comes from pushing the machine past what its actual specifications are. When it comes to the T21s, one of the things that's so exciting about them is the fact that they're built to operate at these higher loads, and they're able to get even more out of the machine without voiding our warranty and overclocking them. The machines were designed to perform at those levels.
Amazing. And I know you were saying the T21s were outperforming spec, even with some of those additional options there, Ben. So that's great to hear. I just wanted to confirm the year-end 21 exahash, that's installed and hashing, or just in place, or how should we think about that target?
The 21 exahash at the end of the year is online operational hash rate target.
Awesome. And with regards to the new site that you've recently acquired, is it Pennsylvania?
Yes.
Is that going to be any Bitcoin mining, or is that going to be focusing on sort of like high performance computing?
So there's two phases of that site, Anthony, and we're still working through the construction, engineering, and the deployment plan for the second phase. The first phase, we have 12 megawatts there, which we're going to be dropping down containers in Q4 of this year. We're going to be redeploying some Bitmain miners there, and we're going to make that a very, very quick time to energization at that site. And we're going to make it relatively low capex because we're going to be redeploying the Bitmain miners. The second phase of that site, we actually need to construct and do a lot of work on the substation. So that's going to have a longer lead time. That we're still working through the deployment and the engineering plan, but that's going to be a much longer lead time item, and it's not going to be contributing hash rate this year.
That's generally because these parts do take a long time to order in the power side of the infrastructure.
For sure. To build infrastructure like a substation in the United States, I think 18 months is a pretty reasonable time frame. If you're going to do it faster than 18 months, you've got to have some sort of inside track. You have to have permits already done. You've got to have long lead time, equipment already in hand. It's very, very hard to do a substation in the United States faster than 18 months. And we are able to do substation build outs faster in Paraguay, which is a big reason why we've doing so much growth down in Paraguay this year. We're able to build out substation and facility infrastructure in sub 12 months in Paraguay. Part of that is due to regulatory environment and the permitting environment, and part of that is due to the availability and the abundance of labor there that's willing to work, over weekends and long hours and everything else in order to get the site done on time. So we're able to build out incredibly quickly in Paraguay. And one of the most valuable aspects to a site, especially new growth for a company like Bitfarms, is the time to energization. How long is it actually going to take for you to start generating revenue at that site, start contributing to free cash flow, and start getting a return on your invested capital? The longer it takes for you to energize, the longer it takes for you to, start generating cash flow and start recovering. And the emphasis and the high value really is associated with an earlier time to energization.
Do you think the recent CoreWeave contract has changed the landscape in terms of Bitcoin miners? I mean, only literally a month ago, we still had you down as a pure play Bitcoin miner, and we'd interviewed you before, and you weren't really interested in HPC. But has that contract made people's eyes open a little up to the potential there?
I don't know if it's changed the landscape, but it certainly changed the conversation. You know, before the focus was entirely on Bitcoin mining as an incredibly attractive vehicle for monetizing energy, especially stranded energy resources. The conversation now, at least from most investors that are reaching out to us, really is strongly focused on the HPC and the AI side of the business. Now, it's unclear to me, Anthony, if this is something that is going to, necessarily remain in perpetuity like this, or if this is because Bitcoin is kind of pulling back and hasn't really made any exciting moves. My guess is it's probably a mixture of both. I would think that AI and HPC is here to stay. I think it's going to continue to grow and continue to expand. But I also think that when Bitcoin price, starts moving and starts setting, new all-time highs, I think a lot of the focus is going to come back to Bitcoin mining as well. And so for us, what we're trying to do is we're trying to evaluate what are the best opportunities in our portfolio of sites. What are some best opportunities for us to potentially diversify the business, to continue to generate and contribute, high margin free cash flow business lines into Bitfarms. And if we can do that with a way that gives, great visibility to us as investors and builders and operators of energy infrastructure over the long term, I think there's definitely room for that in a Bitfarms portfolio, right? Having some level of very, very predictable and high margin cash flows, I think is definitely very attractive and is very interesting. And it's definitely something that we're looking at very seriously. I think the US sites that we just announced with Sharon, Pennsylvania, I think that's a very, very high value site for potential applications of HPC AI. And our Washington site as well, 3 hours away from Seattle. It's located in a huge data cluster of Amazon and Microsoft and Cisco and Facebook data centers. There's a lot of high potential conversion there at our Washington location.
Yeah, really interesting to see how big of play location makes in all these decisions. You talk about location in South America for the Bitcoin mining, and I was actually going to ask you that exact same question, Ben, that you answered is, are the timelines to energization different in South America versus North America? And it's good to hear that they were. Now, we've asked you quite a few mining officer type questions on the call here. So we wanted to shift back to the new appointment, the CEO type of questions. Bitfarms obviously has a new leader at the helm. You now no longer have a chief mining officer. So those will be big shoes to fill, I'm sure. But what in terms of strategy and outlook is going to be different now under your leadership, now with clear vision of all the growth and opportunities here for Bitfarms ahead?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. And certainly on day one, I'm not going to promise to have all of the answers here for the revised strategy moving forward. I think the first steps that, I will be taking and I've already initiated is one is extensive outreach and communication with the whole Bitfarms management team and all of our relative, site managers and key employees here. I have a lot of ideas for what we can do as a business, how we can grow areas for us to improve. But first step is really opening up the lines of communication with me and every person inside the business. I already speak with a lot of these people on a daily basis, but a lot are not my direct reports. I don't have a huge amount of communication with them. So getting hands-on with the entire team, getting perspectives from everyone down to, the site technicians, through the site managers and the senior managers and VPs of the company is going to be first and foremost. From that, we're going to be refining our strategy for how we can move forward. We see a lot of good potential for us to continue to expand our US footprint. Obviously, when you look at our pro forma year-end portfolio, there's a huge emphasis on the Latin American growth that we are delivering this year. The focus, I think, looking out over the future, especially with this HPC AI question being very prevalent here amongst the investors, is more of a focus on the United States. And so, we're going to be aggressively looking for further opportunities to continue to, expand and diversify our portfolio. We're going to look for emphasis on US-based infrastructure. And we're going to look for infrastructure that has, more than one potential application, right? Just because a site is good for Bitcoin mining doesn't mean it's only good for Bitcoin mining. But just because a site is good for Bitcoin mining doesn't also mean it's good for HPC AI, right? So we're going to be evaluating all of these different things. We're also going to be looking at other ways that we can grow and expand the business to synergistic and highly complementary business lines. So you could think of areas like heat recycling, energy generation, any sort of kind of waste processing that might utilize energy or recover energy. Those are areas we're going to be looking at potentially diversifying and expanding our business into, because there are areas and business lines that, we may not have, the full experience with those business lines. They're very synergistic with what we're doing as a Bitcoin miner, and they're going to help us to expand our business, reduce our risk, and hopefully improve our margins.
Makes sense. And we know you just have appointed Fanny Phillips to the board of directors as well. So there are a number of new personnel or changes at the company. What does this represent in terms of skill set and opportunity for Bitfarms?
Yeah, Fanny's a great hire. We're all excited to have her. Fanny previously came from Sato, which, was another Quebec-based miner. And she was the COO there. She managed a lot of their operations. She's got a great, financial mind on her. And so she's going to be joining us and helping us on all sorts of different committees, from audit committee and reporting committee. She brings a wealth of experience for, understanding our business and also providing that, high quality of governance, high quality of insights, and the right kind of questions, that a board should be asking of its senior management.
One last point on South America. I mean, obviously we talked many months ago about political landscape. How do you see it currently, and does it feel fairly stable for you guys down there?
Yeah, Latin America is still fairly stable. We're continuing to grow there. We're continuing to obviously invest down in Latin America. I still think just a ton of opportunity here. And really, this was the area for us to be able to grow quickly and aggressively this year. And as we're delivering that, our focus is really going to be on what are the next high level opportunities, what are the next areas for us to continue to grow, continue to expand, continuing to manage our portfolio to provide higher quality exposure to Bitcoin, energy, and these related kind of business lines for our investors.
One last point, Ben, and I'm not going to get into the right issue, but in terms of M&A activity in the Bitcoin mining space, I mean, is this something that Bitfarms may be interested in looking at? Some miners out there, we see a big gap now between those that have delivered reasonable amount of increased hash rate this year and some of the miners that have sort of struggled to grow and are starting maybe to look from a valuation perspective quite attractive out there. Do you foresee, as we go forward now, the sort of like more M&A activity with regards to some of the miners at the lower end of the market cap scale?
Yeah, I think you probably will. There's been a lot of talk about M&A for at this point 12, 18 months. I think M&A has been a very frequent topic of discussion. Obviously CleanSpark and the Grid deal recently really kind of re-excited, I think, a lot of people about the opportunities here for M&A. And certainly there's a huge gap between those at the top of the leaderboard and those who aren't. I think the challenge here when it comes to M&A really is trying to align the team, the valuations, and just dealing with the underlying volatility between the two stock prices, right? Even if you are in alignment today, there's so much that can happen in the next 3 to 6 months as you're working through a deal that could, any one of them end the deal. So I think it's still incredibly challenging. But when you look at, again, that value that's associated with time to energization and time to being online, M&A starts becoming more and more attractive, right? You start to realize that perhaps the fastest pathway to grow is going to be through M&A, because even though we can build out this infrastructure for less money, elsewhere, it's going to take us 2 years to do it. And we can be turned online in the next, 4 or 5 months, be there to capture the entire bull run, next year. And we'll get better economics than if we wait and we energize, after a bull run in 2024 or 2025. So I think you're going to see a lot of that taking place. I mean, we have an active corporate development team. We are always on the lookout for new opportunities. We constantly have different sites and different opportunities in our DD pipeline that we are evaluating, that we are exploring. And, for the sites that are very interesting for us and very attractive, we're going to move aggressively like we did with the Sharon announcement.
Yeah, exciting times ahead. I can imagine you've got a lot going on today, Ben. So thank you so much for making the time. We'll give the mic back to you to sign off as the first official sign off as CEO of Bitfarms, but really enjoyed the interview. Thanks so much for the strategy update. And again, huge congratulations from Power Mining and the rest of the retail community here.
Thank you so much. It's been my pleasure to be on with you guys and to have my very first interview as CEO publicly with Power Mining Analysis.
Amazing. Well, you guys, if you enjoyed this, hit the like button. Feel free to subscribe. If you have any more questions for the CEO, Ben, let us know in the comment section below. We'll be sure to add them to our next Q&A session. We really appreciate the view, and we'll talk to you guys soon.